Hello there, and welcome to episode 5 of Here Be Dragons. And today here with Wochi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Wochi. I'm a World of Warcraft player from a long time, content creator on Twitch, and I enjoy any games in general, but mostly World of Warcraft. Yeah.
So, do you want to start with how you've started playing Warcraft? And have you come from a different MMO background or a different gaming background?
Well, I started to game in general from a very early age because my very first system I played on was my Amiga 500, and the game back in there were much different from what we
Oh
have
yeah,
right
yeah.
now. My first memory of anything RPG like was in the series of Eye of the Beholder, which is still great to this day, but it was much different from anything I ever played now. But yeah, my very first approach to the MMO genre was with a game called Ultima Online, and that was wild. Being able to play with people across the world with a 56K modem that took 3 hours to load in, and then everything was very jittery and slow. But it was an amazing experience. I have tried other games like that in the course of the years, but then I have landed on World of Warcraft. With me being almost a noob to the lore of World of Warcraft, because I only played a couple of games, which is Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, but I never delved into the actual lore that is behind World of Warcraft.
Mm.
Until then, I started, of course, play the MMO. I was that much of a noob that when I created my very first character, and I'm talking about 2007, I made him a Tauren, and I thought that it was such a scary creature that I made his name Wochinimen, which in Chinese is "I eat you," which I thought it was something like, it's a Minotaur, because I come from a mythology type of background, so it is a Minotaur, so it has to be scary. And then I realized that Taurens are not
No.
the scary one over the course of the years. So it kind of sort of, it's a very aggressive Tauren, sort of.
Well,
uh,
yeah. They're almost the complete opposite of that.
oh yeah, absolutely. They're the most pacifist race ever. But hey, you live and learn apparently. But yeah, I started to play WoW around the end of 2007, and we were probably um, on the back leg of Burning Crusade when I started. So I was at the beginning I was playing solo. I didn't even understand what dungeons were, so I always were trying to do them on my own. Then I realized, hang on a minute, I need to ask people to do that. But I didn't have a guild, so I was asking random people to help me doing dungeons. In I believe it was Wailing Caverns, and I was asking in Baron chat. So you can imagine what type of responses I could get from that one. But after a little bit, and after a couple of hit and miss with some guild, I decided to create my own guild in 2008. So that was the very beginning of my Guild Infinity Challenge, which still exists
Still
as
exists to
of
this day,
today.
yeah.
Yeah, so it is one of the long running guilds in this game. Yes.
So, first of all, we have to address the giant elephant in the room.
Yes.
I'm hardcore Alliance, and you're very
Hmm.
much hardcore Horde. So,
Yes.
what is it that drew you to the Horde in particular? Because you came, is it purely because you wanted to be a Minotaur?
Yeah, it's mostly because I wanted to be a monitor, and also because um, there is always this much of a focus on the good guys, in generally speaking, in games. And I, at the time, of course, Horde and Alliance were much into an all-around war between
Yeah.
the two factions. So I had a couple of friends that were playing Horde at a higher level than me when I started, and of course, Minotaurs were there, and Shamans also was the class I've chosen to. And Alliance had some choices for shamans, but they didn't really appeal to me. So that was also another um, driving force for me to play
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Back
Horde.
then, it was just Draenei, I think. Back then, wasn't it?
I believe it was just Draenei.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see why you would want to do that.
Yeah, that's no.
Yeah, no, not the most popular space goats. No.
No, the space people don't really know exactly. And also, there is also this fantasy that in every RPG, the class, the races you're going to play as are all those that are in the Alliance faction. You can play dwarfs, you can play elves, you can play humans, you can play gnomes as well. So all these fantasy tropes that, for example, a Dungeons and Dragons settings provides you are very much there. And I wanted also something that was different.
Yeah.
You hardly can play with monsters in Dungeons and Dragons, except probably the orc, the half orc in Dungeons and Dragons. That's probably the only one that can kind of shoot. You can never play a troll, let alone a minotaur or a goblin, because they always consider the creature you're fighting, the creature you kill in any dungeons in Dungeons and Dragons. So
Yeah,
that's also for me was okay. Finally, I can play something that is different.
there is some discourse within the D&D community that like these races are considered to be like inherently evil, and
Yes.
should they be? And because they are sort of based on humanist tropes, so it's very
Yeah, exactly.
it has slightly racist undertones to say that this race of orcs are all evil.
Absolutely,
I
yes.
think they are trying to address that in some of the
Well,
more modern pieces. But
I think that also thanks to Critical Role, there was, I think, believe in campaigns season number 2, there was a character that was a goblin.
yeah,
Yes, it was a curse that turned into a goblin, but still he was playing as a goblin in a group of good people. Let's say that. So yes, there is a lot of RP involved into that because of course you have to fit in a society that sees you as the monster. But that's probably for me is more like a good challenge of role playing. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
yeah, I can see the appeal of coming
Yeah.
from an out, because if you haven't got the lore of the game previous to Warcraft,
Absolutely.
it is very much good guys versus bad guys. It's like, who doesn't want to be a bad
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah. Exactly. Although I have to admit that even though I am personally attached to Orgrimmar as a capital, I have to recognize the much more good look of a city like Stormwind because it's it represents the fantasy city
Mm.
in all imaginations of all the players. But yeah, this is why I'd rather be having my capital in Thunderbluff, which is a little bit more unique.
To be
Rather
fair,
than
Thunderbolt is a nice place.
yeah.
Unfortunately, the other Horde cities not so much.
No, well, one we don't have it anymore, which is Undercity, which
Oh,
was cool when it was up because at least you had the idea of an underground thing with all the different quarters and so on. Silver Moon is confusing.
yes.
Um, the one for the goblins is okay, is original, but again, is a mess.
But yeah, but you can't go there anymore. That's the thing.
Exactly, you can't go anymore there. What else we have now? We have Organ, we have Echo Island, which is a set of islands. That's it.
Yeah.
Uh, so we don't have much of a choice now at the moment in which capital actually we want to have as a horde player. This is why every time the Hearthstone goes somewhere else.
Yeah. So if you don't have many alliance characters, do you? Or you?
I do have a couple, but I always level them or try to level them in guilds or in servers of friends.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I usually don't have much time on my hand to do multiple characters or multiple faction and putting them all together because, of course, with raiding, mythic plussing, and so on, you can really focus on getting one good with the time you have. And for example, for me, in this expansion, is going to be completely a new thing leveling 2 characters, because I have plans for a second character and I have plans for things to do with the second character. But usually speaking, I'm a mono player. I
Yeah.
play only my shaman.
It's purely because I was wondering if you ever experienced Paralysis back in BFA.
I've seen I level a character in Boralus, yes.
Because I'm finding that there are elements of Valdrakken that are very,
Yeah.
very Paralysis like, in that
Oh yeah.
city feels alive in a way that Stormwind sometimes doesn't, and a lot of the other capital cities definitely don't.
Yes, I very much agree. Boralus feels more like a city, and it
Yeah.
feels that everything, all the things you need, are all organized in a way that makes sense. As Vildraken now has a lot of things that make sense. So the guild bank, or the bank in general, is in front of the auction house. The auction house is above the crafters. The crafters are above the tables. So everything that has a flow. So if you go from one place to another for all your daily activities, you can go seamlessly from one place to another, and it makes much more sense.
Yeah. It's like you can do everything from like one little area.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a breath of fresh air to actually have a city that is well done, well organized, and very visible on each of his aspects. Because, for example, in BFA, the city of the main capital for the Horde, which at the moment my brain is completely scattered and I can't remember. It was so much vertical. Zuldazar. Here we go.
Yeah.
Zuldazar was a nightmare to navigate. You had to go down and left for some of the crafters, but then inside and under for some of the quests. Some other quests were above, some other quests were below. The docks was miles away. As it was very characteristic in terms of the theme of the Mayan Empire, which all has all this ziggurat and everything. Perfect on design, visually, but terrible as city
Yeah.
planning.
It's like the fact that the mission tables were a flight path away from everywhere else.
Oh yeah,
It just
absolutely.
felt very,
Oh god,
very
yes,
odd.
no, that was very bad. Yes.
So just to go back to, so you started playing in late TBC.
Yes.
So was it? I assume it was Wrath, and you started to do raiding.
Well, yes, yeah, raiding in a more organized way. Yes, it was in Wrath where we started to properly raid. We started to do as a guild some Karazhan,
Yes. Yeah.
because we wanted to experience how a raid was, but it was highly unsuccessful. I can say that quite easily, because there were nights in which we were spending 2 or 3 hours on a Tumen, with the joy of having to re-kill all the horses before him, because every 30 minutes the ads back in the day were respawning.
Oof.
So we were having to go through all the ads, having a couple of attempts on a Tumen, then wiping, going back, and the ads were appearing again. So, oh god, we're gonna stay here all night. But there, yes, in Wrath was the very first time in which we actually started to properly organize raids and everything else, to the point in which my guild was, I believe, either server third or server fourth on killing the Lich King before the any pre-patch nerf or anything. So it's literally we were there. It was ICC 10, so we only
Yeah.
raided 10 men. We had multiple team at 10 men, but we never experienced the 25 men, because apparently it was too much of a step up for us. And sometimes when you try to add a new mechanic to the brain of some of the players, they go ballistic and they forget how to play. So we tried a
Yeah.
couple of times and it didn't work.
Yeah. I've tried it a couple of times where you just want to push a little bit further, and it just
Yeah.
doesn't click.
Well, Rat was also the expansion. I met my wife, which is always gonna be my favorite expansion, regardless of whatever Dragonflight throws at me.
Yeah.
That to me is gonna be always my
Well,
favorite expansion, regardless.
I mean, that comes on to what we were going to discuss later. Is that
Yeah.
the game is just a game, but it's
Yes.
about the people
Oh,
you
of
meet
course.
within the game that make it special.
Yeah.
Um,
Is the people, is the experiences, is the stories you create. Is all that. Yes.
Because I mean, I've no doubt that you've got people in your guild now that have been with you since you formed
Oh yes, yes. They're still
years ago.
there. They're still playing with us.
Yeah, and that's like a connection that you've got that's lasted over a decade, over 15 years now. I would said,
Yes, exactly.
and that's not something you don't really get with pugs. You don't get that connection, that shared history. That's not to say you can't meet a pug that you get on with and you become friends with later, but
Absolutely, yeah.
the way the people are right now in the game in pugs, it's very
Mm.
unlikely. It's very much
Yeah,
if
you, you have to be very lucky if you find a pug that then decides to tag along for the rest of the journey.
yeah. I mean, I just last night I was doing a heroic just because I wanted to farm some materials for professions,
Hmm.
and I did Alcathar Academy. That's how you say it.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know if you're aware, but on the first boss of that, well, it's got multiple routes, but one of the first bosses you can do, it drops a ring, and this ring
Hmm.
you use to trade in with another couple of items to get a mount.
Ah,
So
okay.
I was queued in this dungeon for it must have been about 15 minutes because I'm a DPS only player. Um, Finally get in, and the rest of the group starts charging forward, straight forward to do the tree boss.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and the tank starts going, no, this way. I'm like, oh, we can just do this one all here. But he wasn't for coming, so we went over to do the other boss on the left hand side. We kill the boss, no problems. The ring doesn't drop. Him and the healer just leave the group.
Fantastic.
And I looked at the loot table because this happens before, particularly in Shadowlands, where people were looking in normals and heroics to get patterns for legendaries.
Yes,
If they don't
I
get it,
remember
they
that.
just alter 4 out of that dungeon. And it was just like, really, we're a week into this expansion and people are being this
Yeah, people are still
toxic.
min maxing. People are
Because
still min maxing
there's
now.
3 people still in that dungeon who are now halfway through going, well, what do we do now? Um,
It is terrible. It is absolutely terrible.
Luckily, we I was playing my warlock. I got out my big blueberry. I said to the healer, keep that blueberry alive, keep him alive, and we'll kill this dungeon. And we did.
Yeah.
But honestly, I wish that if Blizzard are going to do that sort of thing because I like the idea of it. It's interesting to put mounts behind loot.
Yes, I agree with
Put
that.
the loot on the last boss, for God's sake. Don't put it on intermediate bosses where people can just do that because it's going to be really toxic to
There
newer
must be.
and
There must
learning
be.
players.
Yeah, there must be some more punishment for attitude like this. There has to be something that it can be done to prevent uh, these people to just do what these awful behaviors or just leaving the group because they didn't find anything. I mean, put them on a block list for 1 hour and they can't requeue because
Yeah, I think it's currently 10 minutes. I think 15 minutes currently.
yeah,
Which
there should be an option of course, because dungeons can go wrong. Okay, so if there should be a vote that says, let's vote to disband the group because the dungeon is too hard or is
yeah,
not completable, and everybody has to vote. So is an agreement of all the group to avoid, leaving the group randomly and still getting punished.
yeah,
But there has to be some sort of punishment for somebody that leaves without, telling other people this way, and it is distressing. It is everything that we stand for that he's against everything that we stand for, and he's absolutely disgusting.
Because
Yes.
this is what I stressed. Because I see my guildies at the moment saying, "Oh, is anybody up for a Mythic Zero, or does anybody want to do a heroic?" And it's like, this is what a guild is for. It's for people to help each other out. And
Absolutely.
and then they'll see them going, "Well, I can't get into a group because I'm not as high enough high level." I'm like, just do it with a pug group. He's gonna ask for the head of the curve to get into do M0s currently.
Exactly.
Whereas a guild group,
I am a cutting edge player from season 3 of Shadowlands. Can I get into your M0?
yeah, and it's just like, if you do it with guildies, if you wipe, doesn't matter because you're gonna get through it, and you'll enjoy it more than if you were
Mm-hmm.
pugging with somebody knowing that if you wipe on this, the tank might quit because it happens. And obviously that's what you've really sort of started to build over the last couple of years is the dojo.
Yes,
Dungeon Dojo,
exactly.
where you basically help the community cross faction, cross
region.
just to. I mean, was it mainly? I mean, you describe yourself. Was it mainly to do KSM or?
So at the very beginning, when I created the Dungeon Dojo, it was a place to help people not only learning how to do Mythic Pluses, but to have a place in which they could be without people quitting on them, slugging them off, or anything that could ruin the multiplayer experience for players that were either shy, unsure, or non-experienced. Also, for all people that maybe with a rating of 2K couldn't find a group because apparently 2K was too low. So at the very beginning, it was much of a smaller group of people that just had enough of getting denied, or they wanted to do, but they were too scared to do them on their own. That was the main idea at the very beginning of the dojo. And we will be running this for like a year. When Blizzard announced the plans for Season 4 Shadowlands with all the slime cut that has to be done on a difficulty of normal and above, we saw that on Twitter, the base the base mood was, I don't have a guild to play with, I don't want to queue with random people, I'm not going to be getting my slime cut. So we decided to say, okay, the dojo exists for putting people together to play together, let's run the slime cut. And at the same time, we kept doing Keystone Master for everybody, and it started to like a snowball effect, and more people started to join, and not only people that have difficulties of finding groups or guild, but also members of cutting edge guilds or even race to world first guilds started to join the dojo for the purpose of helping others, things that maybe they can't really do on their own with other guilds, with their own guilds, and they just decided to just want to help. And that's kickstarted the entirety of the season 4 for us in Shadowlands, which we helped over 60 people to get their cut through raids every week. We ended up having, I believe the last number I checked was 43 Keystone Master achieved thanks to the people of the dojo. And to me, that is a result of a community that came together because they wanted to play together, and because what is at the moment provided inside the game was not good enough.
Yeah, because when it was originally announced, Slime Cat, I was very much. I'd heard stories of the friendship moose, which is Legion, or was it Wad? I can't quite
Yeah.
remember. And I'd heard of that, and I thought that's a really good idea. And I thought my guild's going to clear this raid fairly quickly, and it's end of expansion. Who knows when the next expansion is going to be actually physically out?
Yeah.
So I said to my guild, I want to do this. do we want to put together a group to help people? And a lot of people were kind of like, we're a bit burnt out with Shadowlands. We just want to like clear farm for a few weeks and then just take a break. And I was like, well, that's fine. I'm not going to force you. And I don't know how it was. I stumbled across you, but I think it was a tweet, or maybe it was when you were on the Radio IO front page for a week.
I
And I was like,
think I think we started to interact with each other after PreachCon.
yeah, PreachCon, that was it, yeah. So I
Yeah,
was like, so I sort of joined along for a couple of
runs. Yeah.
sessions, and then it's like, oh, this is like, I don't need to get my guild to do it because this dojo's doing it as well. So I'll just help the dojo, and that'll make me feel like I'm giving something back to the community, but I'm also not pressuring my guild to do something
Exactly.
they're not really wanting to. So I was there for pretty much every
Yes.
week. I think.
Yes, exactly. It is that feeling of giving something back to the community, because um, we all play this game, and the success of a game, especially an MMO like this, is the amount of people that plays it. So it is in our own very good interest to have as many people that plays this in a good and nice, relaxed way, to make the game better. So we want people to play this type of content because we want people to enjoy the content, and the more they enjoy, the more they're going to stay, the more they're going to invite their friends. And that is the snowball effect that at the beginning of World of Warcraft, that's what made Wrath the peak of subscription for World of Warcraft, with over, I believe, 12 million subscriptions. That's because the game was not only very good, but there was a lot of people playing together without too much elitism. And that was the biggest apex of World of Warcraft. Because of that, the community back there was great.
Mm.
And then everything started to become a game's number.
So
I'm
do you
sorry,
think
a
that?
numbers game. A numbers game, yeah.
Do you think that was it Kata that changed then? Because I know that Kata on launch the dungeons were like significantly harder than
Yes.
previously. So people
I-
had
I-
to fight a bit more for like spots in
yes,
groups.
there was a shift in difficulty pretty soon after the launch of Cataclysm, because the dungeons were very, very hard. I remember wiping endlessly on the dungeon, and you start with a dragon run, and that was a party killer. The one you have to fly with the dragon, killing the trogs and everything else, and then you land up and you clean up the rest.
Yeah.
There was a couple of bosses in there that were just way too overtuned. And in generally speaking, the dungeons of Cataclysm at the beginning, they were not that great in terms of lore, if you can say that, because we had I don't know, the ancient ruins with all the Scarab the people, the and everything else. And there was a very lot much of a lore um, fiesta there. There was the ones in Ulduar, which with all the Titan structure. There was the
Yeah.
one in Icecrown with the like. There's a lot. There was a lot going on, and then the dungeons in Qatar were a bit shallow in terms of depth. Maybe cool looking, because of course the engine went through other processes, but it wasn't much. I don't remember them much. When there is time walking week, I had to just scrub my head. Ah, yes, you have to do this boss this way,
Yeah, I
because
think
it didn't leave any memory in me in those.
it's because it's not centralized in a single zone.
Hmm.
They're very spread out. They've all got the zone stories are very insular. So
Yes,
the
yes.
Stone
There was
Core is very like
mm,
what's it called now? Deep home focused,
Deep Home.
and
Yes,
that has no real connection other than oh yes, they are elementals to say Vashia and
yes.
the Abyss dungeon, which to this day doesn't really make sense.
No, absolutely.
Because
But you
obviously
see,
there's
go
pretty good
on.
chances of cut raid there.
Yeah. But you see, there was also Cataclysm was an expansion that suffered from a storyline that was scattered across different areas in different continents. And to this day, I think that's the only one that did that, because you have Outland that is all in the Outlands. You have Wrath that is all in Northrend. You have Pandaria, which is all in Pandaria. You have Legion, which is in the Broken Shore and everything that is there. You have BFA, which has Zuldazar and the other island that has. So the story in all these expansions is in one new continent, and all the areas of the expansion are in the same place. So you move
Yeah.
endlessly from one to another. Cataclysm is a bit on Kalimdor, a bit under the sea, a bit at the center of the earth, a bit here, a bit there, and there is no cohesive moving from one to another. You just choose where you want to go, and that's about it. And it's not really
You
well
could say
designed.
it's very similar to vanilla in that way, though, because vanilla
Yes,
doesn't have a storyline; it has zones with stories in them. Kata is the
that is
same.
that is true. But for me, for example, that I always played Horde, and I never had an undead character or an IL or an elf character or blood elf character. When I leveled, I always level in Kalimdor. So for me, the experience was I'm here in one continent alone. So I moved into all the areas of Kalimdor, and to me it made sense because for one area I stepped into the other one which was bordering it. While and if you play an undead, you are on Eastern Kingdoms, and you all level in, if you want, in that area. You never
Mm.
put your foot on a boat or on a zeppelin and you go to the other side. So Kalimdor still can be seen as you can level in one continent alone,
Yeah,
while literally Cataclysm you couldn't do this because you had to do all the areas and they were all in different places.
and then
This is why yeah, go on.
you move on to mists, which I think is still even. Oh, I don't know. I've seen Dragonflight now.
Yeah, exactly.
I
I
want to
was
say
going to say
it's the prettiest like location in the game, but then I can't stop taking screenshots of
but then Dragonfly came
Dragonflight.
and
Yeah,
changed everything. Exactly.
it's just now right now. I'm flying from one place to another. Normally I'd be like AFK checking Twitter or something,
Hmm.
but now I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing! Look at that, the sun's setting and you can see it over the Obsidian Citadel, and I'm flying over the Uniran Plains, and it's just like stunning. Because, obviously,
Absolutely.
that's to do with the view distance they've added now. You couldn't get that
Yes.
before, but then I think that same feeling of flying over the Jade Forest or towards
Mm.
Mount Everest is it's got a similar feel of like spectacle.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. The visual team for Dragonflight has replicated the same uh, wow factor in terms of not wow World of Warcraft wow
yeah,
factor of Pandaria, and turned the notch up to 10. And while Pandaria still looks amazing to this day, you can't really beat at the moment the visual aspect of Dragonflight. At the moment is unmatched, and I don't think that it can be compared to anything else that we have seen so far. It's just a place on its own.
I think the only experience I've had that's similar for me personally, and I know this will probably be an unpopular take, but it's in Shadowlands when you first arrived in Ardenweald.
Mm.
When you first got there and you looked at the zone, and it was like, wow, the art team is just on fire.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I'd come from Bash. I hated Bastion. It was too bright. It was
Too
just.
bright. Okay.
It was like, oh, it was just no. It was too. Ugh. And then you went to Maldraxxus, which was
Green.
it had a theme and it stuck to the theme well. I'll say that about it.
Yeah, no,
But it wasn't a
absolutely.
nice zone. But Ardenweald was spectacular. Um, and
Yeah,
then
absolutely.
so when you first got there and you looked up and you saw like the stars and the trees and the music kicked in, it was amazing. And Dragonflight is like that, but all the time.
Yes, exactly.
It's like every time you jump off the tower to go fly somewhere, you've got an amazing like shot.
But but you see, you just said why it is good, because you can fly everywhere from day one, and you can literally just spend 20 minutes just flying about in your dragon and exploring and looking at all the different aspects of a continent. This is just designed for you to explore,
I
and that's the best part of it.
literally before we started recording today, I went and flew off to some of the islands on the south coast. You know no reason for you to ever go there unless
Hmm.
you were specifically going to explore. And there's a quest on one of the islands at the south that you would never ever stumble across. Is the
Oh, okay.
rewards worth doing? Not really. Once you've finished leveling, but
Have you? Yeah, exactly. Have you found a quest for the Bob Ross?
I found the artist picture. I have
Yeah,
seen those. I do know the Secret Finding Discord is aware of them. Um, they've got a whole list of all these new things that they think could be something.
yeah. But
But
there's
yeah.
literally a quest of a Bob Ross that you need to recover his colors and his paints through the dungeons because he lost his fate.
Oh, I've not done that one then. No.
Oh, it's amazing!
Oh,
You have
no,
to-
I found an empty, like an easel, and it was looking over a landscape, and it was like, this easel has been unfinished, and you finish painting it, and you get a little buff for an hour that says, you're feeling particularly pleased and artistic, or something like that.
yes, there is a quest, I believe, that is called Sad Little Accident. That is the same kind of sentence that Bob Ross always said, happy
Yeah,
little accidents. But the quest line is basically, I believe it is at the south, in an island, south of Brackenhide Hollow entrance. And
right,
there is this
okay.
little island there with a painter and his wife. And he says that he can't paint anymore because he lost his talent. And he asks you to recover his paints from several different dungeons. And even if you do that, he says, no, it's not enough. You even bring um, an admirer to him to say, oh, I'm a big fan of your paints. Paint something for me. And he says, no, I can't do this because I still need to paint. And he sends you to another 4 dungeons to find his other 4 paints. But it's basically, he is Bob Ross on an island
Yeah,
with his wife. And he's a Toscan,
that's
of course.
that's incredible. What I've loved so far is that, like, the guild is like, it's like 30 people in our guild now, all playing all the time, and not a
Mhm.
single one of us has got the same story because there's
Oh, yeah,
so many quests, and everyone
absolutely.
is like, "Oh, have you done this quest?" No, but I did this quest, and it was like, "Did you find this thing?" I know, but I found this thing, and it's like, it's there's so much in the game that I'm impressed with what the team have done. I mean, obviously
Absolutely.
those quests are finite, and eventually you'll do them
Hmm.
all, but in these first weeks or so, it's incredible amount of work that's in there.
Yeah, me and Michelle have been trying to, do one job at a time. So clean up a little bit of an area together. But we are like those squirrels. They say something that distracts you, and we just go to that. Oh, but did we say that we had to do this quest alone, and we completed another 50 quests in between? Yeah, but we had to do it because it was there. You are compelled to do that
Oh,
because you
it's
can't ignore the exclamation mark on the map. It's like a sort of OCD type of thing. If you see an exclamation mark, you need to go and land.
it's worse for me. I'm a
Yeah.
herbalist. If I see a herb, I've got to go and pick it.
You have an herbalist. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like up, down, up, down, up. fly over to
Yeah.
that river, up, down again, pick another one. It's like,
Michelle is a miner, so she does that as well. So that, oh, you want me to stop, 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 and we have to stop here. We have to land on top of a mountain because there's like a big rich vein there, and then we could go on. Uh, We reached a point yesterday in which she couldn't accept more quests because her quest log was full, and she had to delete some others to pick up later because otherwise we
yeah,
couldn't play together. And it's something having a quest log full at level 70. That's something that I never experienced ever, and it's something very new to me
yeah,
because
because I mean,
usually the quest log is empty. That's it.
yeah, because you like in something like BFA,
Mm,
you do these zones and you complete the main sort of zone story, and there'll be a couple of side stories that come off than that. But that was pretty much it. But like, if you flew off into the woods, you wouldn't really. You'd find some mobs, maybe a secret or two. But when you do that in Dragonfly, you can be flying in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and you'll find a quest completely unrelated to anything else,
absolutely.
just random, and it's like, oh, I'll do that, and that spirals off into like several more quests. And these aren't necessarily part of like the Sojourner achievements.
Exactly.
They're just quests for
There. They're just
there.
there. Yes.
And it's like it rewards you to explore and go to these random places that you would never normally look at. And because they all give reputation and renown,
Yes.
it's all worth doing to unlock things later in the line. So,
Totally. Totally.
but then
But you
even
see,
just doing it just
yeah,
for the
just doing for the
story.
sake of doing. Yeah, yeah. But you see, that's the big plus of having the flying at the beginning, because it you will, if you didn't fly from the beginning of Dragon Flight, you wouldn't have stumbled into these many quests randomly. And that's the beauty of flying from the beginning, because
Yeah,
you will be flying from one location from another. Everybody does different path for flying from A to B. It's never a straight line. You always end up like that, taking a detour or exploring or doing some hair tricks. And when you do that, it's, oh wow, I was going from A to B, but I found C. Let's land at C. Let's do the quest at C. Oh, but there's D next to C. Let's do D. Oh, but I forgot to do B. That's fine. It can take time. There's no rush. We can do all this stuff here. This is what changed the World of Warcraft: is the ability of exploring when we want, how we want, thanks to flying.
yeah. Because the argument always used to be from the devs was, if we gave you flying from the start, you just fly over everything and you wouldn't see the zones. But I think they've realised now that if you design the zones around flying, then
Exactly.
people will still get the experience of exploring, but they won't feel tied to the ground, and because they can quickly get up and go away.
Oh, absolutely.
They will explore
Absolutely.
more than if it's like, well, I've got to stick on this path because I know that this will take me to the next like, quest hub.
And I can go to an extent on saying that if they ever decide to let us use dragon riding in the old world, there will be a very good, very large percentage of players that will actually try to achieve lower master in the old world, because at that point it will be not a chore to just fly from one place to another, and it will be so much fun to just zoom through each of the continent of Kalimdor, his kingdom, that everybody will experience all the quest line of every individual continent or areas, and it will give them something else to add to the things they are doing. I was flying yesterday with old school mount from Twilight Highlands to the entrance of Uldaman, and I was just getting so bored because it was okay. I click to go there, and I just wait for this mount to at some point reach the location. It was such a boring feeling, sadly, that you think they have to be putting this in the old world, because you can't now go back to a world that doesn't have dragon riding.
I do feel that before the end of the expansion, this will happen.
I hope so much.
I think they were going to. They kind of wanted to see what the reaction was from the community. Because when it was first announced, I was like kind of thinking, oh, it's just flying. It's not very exciting. This isn't really a feature. And a lot of people were also kind of like, it's not really very. Like, is this it? It's flying. We've already got flying. I think now people have got their hands on it and have played with it. I think everyone loves it, and I think now that the feedback is there, I think they will push ahead. The only thing they've got to work out is, which is a limit, and I'm sure they're probably already working on it now, is we can only use those 4 mounts currently.
Yes.
We just need to get the other mounts. Now, a lot of the other mounts have similar skeletons, so they should, in theory, be very quickly to
adapt.
Yeah. But then you've got things like Mimron's head. How did that? How was that going to work? How is
they will have to modify
invincible?
them. Yes.
They're going to have to fix that, and I don't know how, because you could make it so that he does the swooshes and the spins, but you've got to make it. I don't know whether you make it and it's got to accept that it's going to look stupid, like seeing Mimron's head spinning around in a circle.
Well, Mimron's head, they can just add rockets to it.
Yeah, so it's whether they do that, or whether they do it in like stages and go like, oh, here, like.
Now all the dragons can be dragon riding.
Well, they've just got the Feldrake giving up.
Yeah.
Thanks, Blizzard, for giving me $3,000
in amount for free. Yes, thanks, Blizzard.
But that could be very easily adapted. That could be done. Like, phase 1,
there's
for
a
example.
lot of groundwork. Yes.
And then phase 2 in a couple of years, or could be like these mounts are now able to be done because we've done X, Y, and Z to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I do think we've got to the point where this is people like it enough that they will bring it in, and it will be a game changer for other zones. Like it's not a limitation of the zones because
no, exactly.
evokers can fly.
Exactly. So. To me, what is going to happen by the tail end of Dragonflight is that we will get dragon riding in the old world, and B, they will unlock all clusters for the Drakthir. That's my bet. You can quote me on this. That's a hill I want to die on eventually. But this is what is going to happen.
I'm not.
You're not sure about that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know because I know they are working on making all the other races be everything. So like, we've just had the Tauren Rogue and Tauren Priest. No, was it Tauren Mage or something?
Yes, Tauren Mage. Yes.
And I think they're going to slowly work through there. I know certain people I know are desperate for gnome shamans.
Yes.
I'd love a Mechanome Druid, but I think it goes through the more work that has to be done. I think Paladins are the hardest to do because you've got to design a Paladin shield that works with the idea, the Paladin horse that works with the theme. Whereas a rogue just doesn't need any work, so they could do it straight away. So I think once all of those are worked through, then the evokers might get evoker mage, evoker healer, whatever.
The reason why I say that is because I believe Mr. GM did a video about it, or it was on a stream, that there is already all the voice bites of evokers saying, "Oh, I'm run out of rage," or "I've run out of mana," or well, that's the one. But for mages, for hunters, there's all the voice bites are already been dubbed with the voice of a Drakthir. They're in the files.
Okay, so, in that case, then I'm a bit more.
You're a bit more. You're a bit more convinced about that. Yeah. Plus, we clearly saw on the videos before the launch of Dragonflight that Drakthir can use big giant axes or halberds. They were warrior. So I don't understand how they forgot how to be warriors, to
Yeah.
be honest.
See, I know people like, oh, we want Dracthea tanks, and I like,
Yeah,
you don't want Dracthea tanks. What you want is Draconid tanks.
Draconic tanks, yes,
Because
and a bigger version.
they are basically what everyone wants them to be. They're these big,
Yes,
chunky dragons. That's what you want. You don't want an evoker. You want that. And
exactly.
if they do allied races, I'm not saying they are, because I think they kind of put that one to the side, because they did
Yeah,
a period where they were doing lots and lots of allied races, and then they were like,
we're limiting that.
but I think the reason why they didn't do it for Shadowlands was because Shadowlands races don't make sense in the real world. The real world in Azeroth, it's like Lady Moonberry and the rest of those fluttery people aren't
Yeah,
going to come into Azeroth. They are
no,
tied to the
exactly,
Shadowlands.
exactly.
Kyrians kind of already exist in Azeroth because they're the spirit
Yes,
healers. So I don't think they were ever going to take like Dracthea or anything like that. Not Dracthea, Venthea into
yeah, no,
Azeroth.
no.
Now we're back in the Dragon Isles. Maybe they bring back allied races later on in a .3 patch. I don't know. But I could see that more likely happening than people they were
Mm,
talking about. I mean, Venthea as allied race.
I think that everybody at Blizzard is kind of archiving Shadowlands to one of the bottom drawers that says, let's pretend that it happened, but we don't talk about it because I believe that they learned a valid lesson on how to provide content to people that are very eager to play your game. And they realized that that wasn't the way. That wasn't the way of treating the players. That wasn't the way of listening to feedbacks from the players. They started to listen at the end of it, which is a very good thing. But I believe that they just don't want to replicate some of the big mistakes that nearly killed their own game in Shadowlands because
Mm.
we were close to a kill in during that period of time.
Yeah, I mean, we were
People
talking
were just
before
not
about
happy.
how people
Yeah.
are people in the communities are the strength of this game. My favourite time. I mean, this we'll see how this patch goes, but my favourite time in the game was 9.0. 9.0 was amazing for me. Kills was going great. The content was new and fresh. Everyone was having fun. And then you compare that to 9.1, and it was like completely opposite. The guild fell apart. People
Mm.
stopped playing. I was logging in every day still, but I wasn't enjoying it. I was doing it because I was like, gotta be an end. There's gotta be a light at the tunnel eventually. Something's gonna have to change. If 9.2 was the same as 9.1, I could have seen myself quitting as well.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And luckily, things started to change. Sepulchre was good. Zereth Mortis. I had issues
Was
with Zereth
okay.
Mortis. I don't think it was amazing, but it was definitely an improvement on Corthia.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um, and then obviously Dragonflight's now out, and my concern with Dragonflight was always I've been so used to the old way of playing because I'm a BFA baby. I've
Mm.
always known artifact power,
Oh god.
Azerite power, and
Oh,
all that borrowed power.
I feel for you.
So the idea of like just gearing, just like
just gearing, just playing, just
so.
normally
Once all the
playing.
quests are done, I've done all the quests. I've done all the renown track. The idea of not having something to do is kind of scary because before there
Mm.
was always something you can do. Um, and I personally know if I was just doing Mythic Plus every single day, that would burn me out of Mythic Plus
Oh
eventually.
yeah.
I need something else to do. That's why I'm a collector. I do collecting and mount farms. This moving into this new age was always, what if there's nothing to do? What if the game I fell in love with was the one that everyone hates, which is the AP era.
Yeah.
And that was always my concern. Because I always wondered, like, what was the end game of Wrath? What did you do at Wrath? You did the
Uh,
dungeons, but the dungeons gave you gear. Eventually, you get all the gear.
in Wrath, the end game was repeating over and over the dungeons and the raids, and when the tournament came in, doing all the dailies of the tournament to gain the all the other stuff for the reputation, but legitimately it was just that. But you could still enjoy, for some reason, playing over and over the same content because you were doing with friends. Again, we're returning to
Yeah.
the beginning of everything. Even doing dailies with a group of friends is good when the game is also good.
Yeah. Like I said,
Is
now
the
I'm experiencing it, I do feel a bit more comfortable with that now. But before it launched, I was concerned a little bit, really.
Yeah, well, of course, you always gonna be concerned if there isn't something to grind on,
Mm.
and it's always gonna be like that. But for example, I find very enjoyable now the area in the Azuspan that is look like a Torghast.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever visited
I've
it,
dabbled in it a little bit.
but it's literally an open air Torghast in which you kill a bunch of elites and they drop you power that lasts you 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And
see,
they make you stronger, faster, or bigger, or do more damage. And there's even a PvP area for that,
yeah,
in
the
which
problem
you,
when I went to try and do it is it was just after that time where there was an announcement that there was a ring you could get that was like really
yeah,
easy to grind. So it was full of people. So literally getting a tag on a mob was impossible.
yeah,
And I just thought, right, I'm going to come back later when this isn't quite so hectic because I'm running around and every time I hit something, it's turning grey. I'm like, okay,
yes.
I'm just gonna leave this for
But
now.
then again, you could. So the way now also it works is that up to 5 people can tag the same mob.
Yeah, but
So
people were
even if,
doing it in raid groups.
yeah,
That's the thing.
in big groups, yes. So the idea is find a group of 5 people and go around and kill everything.
Yeah,
That's another way of. But as I said, that's fantastic because it makes you in a position, it puts you in a position in which you have to find a group with friends and you just blast elites from out of nowhere. The PvP area was amusing because it was a little circle area in which you had to kill um, elementals for the arcane something, or you kill other players. And me and Michelle yesterday were there and trying to do this one because I realized only after I entered the area that there was a PvP area. I said, "Oh, okay, let's try. It's gonna be awful, but let's gonna try." And then you will see these alliance players jumping into a big glacial elemental, like a sort of mech,
yeah,
and they were controlling this mech against us, and we just blasting the pilot, and the mech just, oh, okay, and just went away. And it was just amusing by doing a little bit of a thing to then get a 372 cloak, which, even if it's a PvP cloak, is still a big stat stick.
yeah. I'm waiting till the end of. I'm going to do it tomorrow, I think, because I know the reward scales with your eye level.
Yes, absolutely,
So
yes.
I'm going to do a few more things to try and get as high eye levels. I think if I did now, I think I only get 362 or something.
What other level are currently you are? Because in that case,
Um, well, I did the Mythic Zero tour, and unfortunately, I got 2 wrists, 2 gloves, and
oh god,
3 weapons.
that's not very good.
So I got good. They're all great drops. No
Yeah,
complaints. But I can't use half of the things I got. So
that's
I'm
a bit of a
about
shame.
355, 360.
Yeah, so then probably it's better to wait a little bit to do those
Yeah.
quests. I was
So
lucky because in my Mythic Zero tour, I replaced everything besides, I believe, 3 or 4 items. So I'm 369 currently.
I did it. I'm running 2 characters at the moment, so I did it on the
Yeah, of
mage
course.
yesterday. I've done about half of the dungeons on the mage. I've got 3 trinkets. 2 of them are abyss trinkets already.
Well, that's very good. That is a
So I
very
was
good.
like, that's
Yeah.
sorted. But can I have some like weapons and cloaks and head pieces and that?
Mm.
But have you dabbled in professions yet? Is that something you
I
looked at?
have double in profession at the moment. The only one I am struggling a little bit to put my head around it is the cooking one. because me and Michelle reached level 50 cooking out of 100,
Yeah.
and at the moment there isn't anything in our list that helps us gain points. So
As far as I
one of
understand, what you need to do is fish.
yes, we realized only that after,
Oh,
but
yeah.
one of our guild told us, look, there is some of your recipes that says if you keep crafting this, it might gain inspiration for learning a new one. You need to check that under the description.
Yeah.
And a couple of them actually did that. But the problem is that they unlocked another pattern that has zero improvement. So
Ah,
literally, the only thing we have left to do is fish, hoping to get a bottle that has inside a cooking pattern, because there can be any pattern.
right, okay. Because I've currently unlocked the feast for raid,
Oh, okay.
but you have to make some other dishes to make the feast.
Yes.
And the guild, pretty much between all of us, can make all but one of the things, and no one knows where this other recipe comes from.
Which one is the recipe, if you can remember? Oh, you can tell me later on. But
Yeah, I think
because there's
it's a blue recipe. I think so. It must be a bit more rare.
yeah, because there is a one of my guild told me that there is an NPC in the first area that is literally fishing in lava, and if you kill him repeatedly, it drops a pattern. So maybe that is the one you're missing.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you where it is after. Don't worry.
So if you, but like, for example, on my warlock, which is the main for this patch,
Yeah.
I'm doing herbalism and inscription,
Yes.
and I'm focusing on making staff.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just waiting for the weeks to go by so I can get the sparks because I really want to make
Yes.
that weapon. I just
Oh yeah, yeah.
because it's just like I don't know. There'll be something special about this is my best weapon and
Absolutely,
I
yes.
made it, and knowing
Yeah,
that I can make the same for my guildies or whoever else wants to pay me anything as well.
absolutely. Uh, for me, I am a skinner leather worker, and for armor makers is a bit different, because yes, I think I can make a bow as a leather worker, but um, when you specialize, you need to, for example, for me, is even harder because you have leather and mail to specialize in, and
Yeah,
then you have the elemental specialization. So even inside one of the, let's say I choose mail because, of course, I'm a shaman, so I wear mail. Then in that, you need to choose which of the slot of the armor you want to be expert at, and you put all the points in that. So for the armor maker, it's a bit harder to find your way into the tree, because, of course, you want to be good and be able to make money out of it and help the guilders, but they might need, oh, I need a head or I need a chest, and you have all your points in boots. And it says, okay, I can't make all those, but I can make boots. Anybody
yeah.
want boots?
Fortunately, in our guild, we've got one member who is very knowledgeable about all the professions. So she
Yeah,
is every question is like, "What do you do this?" She'll come back and say, "Oh, this is what you want to be doing. These are the things you want to do." And it's like it's been a life sentence. She's put a huge amount of work into these spreadsheets with all the
oh, fantastic.
different what every different profession, what things they use to upgrade. So it's like
Yeah,
so everyone can go through their bags and go, I don't need this particular ingredient because I don't use it, but I can put it in the guild bank, and someone who does use it can go and take it out and they can use it.
absolutely.
Um, I
We
do.
should
I
start to do
love
the
the
same.
depth. I love the depth of the professions, at least early on, how it
Oh yeah,
works.
I'm absolutely loving how they are evolved into this thing. To me, professional has always been one of the most uh, afterthought in any other expansion, because they were very good at the very beginning to help you gear up, but then they become irrelevant
Yeah,
soon after, and the only thing you need from any profession is enchanting. You need the flasks, you need the feasts, and you need armor patches and potentially oils like in Shadowlands War. So out of all the different professions, you need only 5 items, which is pretty poor.
Yeah, I used to take tailoring on the mage. I
Yeah,
still got it, but and it was literally to get the transmogs for myself. And
yeah, to get the
after week
transport. Yeah,
3, I would never craft again on tailoring apart from bags.
exactly.
But well, as long as Blizzard keep up with the patterns so that this gear is always competitive.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have to put a lot of ingredients into it to make these things, and that's fine. As long as it's competitive with raid, it's perfect. Because that's what has always been the problem: is you would always outgear the stuff you could craft. So
Exactly.
hopefully if they
We will
keep up with
see.
that.
Yeah, we will see how we keep up for the rest of the
Okay,
expansion.
so we'll wrap it up there for today.
Absolutely.
Do you want to give yourself a sort of shout out where people can find your stream and all the rest of your
Well,
socials?
you can find me on Twitch at WochiTV. You can find me on Twitter at WochiNiman, which is the longer version of my name. But you can also find me tweeting under the Dungeon Dojo WoW account on Twitter. And of course, I invite everybody who feels that he doesn't have a place, they don't have a place in WoW because they're always forced to be poggy. You are more than welcome to join us. We always have a place for you, regardless of your level of skill, commitment, or knowledge of the game. You always have a place with us.
And you can also join if you do have a guild, because you can go and help out as well. Because
Exactly.
you always
We
need
always
tanks.
need people.
You
We
always need
always
a
need
tank.
people. Always need a tank. Always need a healer.
Yeah, the game is 99% DPS.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you very much, Wochi, and we'll
Thank you for
see you all
having me.
next week. Bye bye.
Yeah.